No one voted to forget. No law declared that memory would become a weapon. Yet somewhere between war and peace, prosperity and panic, the United States learned how to govern not just people but their pasts. Files multiplied. Names hardened into categories. Absence became evidence. And in the quiet decades between gunshots, a system was perfected that would never again fully release its grip. Asterisk war needs memory to 1913 to 1919 wars are not fought only with rifles and artillery. They are fought with ledgers, manifests, passports, and names. Elias understood this the moment Europe began to slide toward catastrophe. In 1913, cables from abroad grew tense. Assassinations, alliances, mobilizations. America watched from a distance, officially neutral, unofficially preparing. Records became weapons. Underscore when war erupted in 1914. The U.S. government expanded quietly. New bureaus, new committees, new classifications. Elias was asked this time without pretense to assist in harmonizing records between agencies, military intelligence, immigration, commerce. The request did not come with threats. It came with urgency. Underscore Margaret Halley watched the transformation with alarm. New secrecy laws, expanded surveillance, journalists warned to exercise restraint. She published cautiously, focusing on labor and civil liberties. But she noticed something else. Files were not vanishing now. They were being reorganized, centralized, standardized. The shadow archive was evolving. Underscore in 1915, a German U-boat sank the RMS Lusitania. America reeled. Public opinion shifted. Elias reviewed passenger manifests, insurance claims, and diplomatic correspondence. He noticed discrepancies immediately. Cargo declarations quietly amended, witness testimonies summarized selectively. Not lies, simplifications. He wondered how much truth a democracy required in wartime. Underscore when the United States entered the war in 1917, bureaucracy exploded. Draft registrations, alien registries, loyalty affidavits, millions of new documents flooded the system. Elias saw the danger. Volume could bury accountability. Underscore the Espionage Act passed. Then the Sedition Act. Words became crimes. Records became evidence. Margaret reported on arrests, censorship, deportations. She wrote carefully, but she kept copies. Underscore Elias and Margaret's correspondence intensified, still indirect, still deniable. She would reference a file. He would ensure its survival. She would note an inconsistency. He would correct it, not to hide, but to clarify. It was not collaboration. It was alignment. Underscore in 1918, the influenza pandemic swept the nation. Death overwhelmed everything. Records fell behind reality. Hospitals overflowed. Bodies buried without names. Elias worked through the nights. He insisted on documentation, not for control, for remembrance. When the war ended in 1918, America emerged victorious and changed more centralized, more powerful, less patient with dissent. The machinery Elias had helped build would not be dismantled. It would be inherited. In 1919, Elias suffered a mild stroke. It did not kill him. It slowed him. He could no longer pretend he was permanent. He began to compile something new, not leverage, not insurance, a guide, a record of records, a map of the shadow archive itself. Margaret sensed it. She wrote one final letter. Not a question, a statement. If history must be curated, it should be curated by principle, not convenience. Elias read it slowly. Then he agreed. He selected a small group, archivists, clerks, librarians, not powerful men, careful ones. They would not know the whole truth, only their piece. Decentralization again, protection through humility. In the summer of 1919, during the Red Scare, files were seized, offices raided, names compiled, alias insured. Some lists remained incomplete, not enough to stop the tide, enough to save lives. That autumn, he disappeared from public view. No obituary appeared. No retirement notice. His office on Dearborn Street was emptied. Neighbors assumed he had died, or moved, or never existed at all. Margaret continued writing. She never named him. She never revealed the shadow archive outright. She changed journalism instead. She taught skepticism as craft, records as narrative, absence as evidence. The shadow archive survived, not intact, not whole, but alive. The silence between wars, 1920 to 1938. The most dangerous time for a system is not when it is under attack, it is when it is normalized. After the First World War, America wanted calm, prosperity, forgetting, and forgetting. Elias Blackwood knew even an absence was a kind of editing. The 1920s arrived, stressed a celebration. Factories roared back to life. Radios entered homes. Automobiles remade distance. Stock tickers flickered like omens. No one wished to read. The shadow archive adapted quietly. It no longer lived in basements and private caches alone. It lived inside procedures, standardized forms, uniform filing codes, interagency memoranda. What Elias had once done manually was now embedded in institutional habit. Margaret Hawley became an editor, not by choice, by necessity. Her reporting had become too influential, too inconvenient. Promotion was a polite form of containment. She accepted it. Influence, she knew, could be exercised sideways. Elias, officially non-existent, lived under a reduced name in rural Pennsylvania. He read constantly government bulletins, congressional records, foreign cables. He wrote rarely. His guide, The Record of Records, was nearly complete. It was not an instruction manual. It was a warning. In 1924, Congress passed new immigration quotas. Numbers replaced people. Whole regions of the world were reduced to percentages. Elias read the drafts. He recognized familiar logic, not hatred, optimization. Margaret opposed the law publicly. privately. She preserved the debates in future readers, she believed, deserved to know how easily exclusion could be justified, underscore in October 1929. The stock market collapsed. Panic followed. Banks failed. Records vanished not from malice, but from neglect. Boxers abandoned. Offices shuttered. Clerks dismissed. The shadow archive absorbed fragments like a sponge. Underscore the Great Depression created a new relationship between Americans and the state. Relief required documentation. Aid demanded proof. Identity became transactional. Elias watched carefully. This was not tyranny. It was dependency. More subtle, more durable. Underscore Franklin. D. Roosevelt's New Deal expanded the federal record-keeping apparatus beyond anything previously imagined. Social Security numbers, employment histories, benefit registries. The intention was humane. The mechanism was powerful. Underscore Margaret supported the New Deal, but she insisted. Editorialian transparency. Archiving became a public topic for the first time. She argued that memory was infrastructure. Most readers skimmed past it. That was enough. Underscore in Germany, another system was rising, one that weaponized records openly, racial registries, loyalty tests, identity reduction. Elias followed the reports with dread. This was the shadow archive stripped of restraint. No ambiguity and no mercy. In 1936, Elias wrote his final addition to the guide. When records cease to be descriptive and become prescriptive, democracy is already retreating. He sealed the document, distributed fragments to trusted custodians, then stopped writing. Underscore Margaret sensed the end. She arranged for her personal papers to be donated not to a government archive, but to a university library with strict access rules. Decades would pass before scholars understood their value. Underscore by 1938, war loomed again. America watched Europe fracture. Elias did not live to see the second global conflict. He died quietly in February of that year. Cause: heart failure. Official record: incomplete. Appropriate. Underscore Margaret read the notice in a small paper. No name she recognized, but she knew. She closed her eyes, then went back to work. The shadow archive entered its next phase without its architect. No longer personal, no longer moral, institutional. The age of sealed files, 1939 to 1953, World War II, did not begin with gunfire in America. It began with folders stamped confidential, before Pearl Harbor, before uniforms filled streets, before factories turned to arsenals. The United States built something vast and quiet, a nervous system of information, and the shadow archive slid into it as if it had always belonged there. Underscore the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, was born in haste and secrecy. Spies needed legends. Legends needed paperwork. Paperwork needed credibility. Entire lives were fabricated. Birthplaces, education, employment histories. Elias Blackwood would have recognized the craftsmanship instantly. The difference now was scale. Underscore Margaret Haley was nearly 60 when the war began. Her byline was rare. Her influence was not Younger editors sought her counsel when federal requests arrived asking for files, notes, correspondence. She told them the same thing every time. Give them copies, keep originals. After Pearl Harbor, secrecy hardened. The War Department classified millions of documents. Japanese American families were registered, relocated, renamed by camp numbers. Records became cages. Margaret protested. Quietly, she preserved lists. Others wanted erased. In Los Alamos. Oak Ridge Hanford projects existed that officially did not. Their paperwork was distributed, fragmented, misleading by design. The atomic bomb was not only a scientific triumph, it was an archival one. When the war ended in 1945, America possessed unprecedented power and unprecedented secrecy. Files multiplied faster than truth. The Shadow Archive had found its natural habitat. The OS dissolved. The CIA was born. Permanent intelligence required permanent records and permanent ambiguity. The past could be revised for national security. Margaret recognized the danger immediately. In 1947, she wrote an essay never published in her lifetime. The justification for secrecy always begins as temporary. Its permanence is achieved by habit. The Cold War began. Names were compiled, associations mapped, files thickened with rumor. Proof became optional. McCarthyism thrived not because of lies but because of incomplete records. Enough doubt to destroy, not enough to defend. The Shadow Archive did not create this era. It enabled it. Margaret testified before a Senate subcommittee in 1952. She spoke calmly, precisely. She did not accuse. She described process. The committee thanked her, then ignored her. She died the following year. No scandal, no suppression, just age. Her papers waited. The Shadow Archive endured, evolving, absorbing, invisible to those who relied on it most.